For the past 2 years, 2 Canadians, Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor, have been detained arbitrarily by China, and Canada has done absolutely everything necessary to try and get them home safely.
Tomorrow marks 2 years since China arrested and detained Canadians Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor. They have been denied contact with their families and even a lawyer. The ambassador to China, Dominic Barton, was recently granted virtual access, consular access to the men, and he says physically and mentally they're healthy. That was echoed today by Foreign Affairs Minister François-Philippe Champagne in a statement that reads in part, "These years have been stolen from Mr. Kovrig and Mr. Spavor, their families and loved ones. I am struck by the integrity and strength of character the two have shown," the minister goes on to say, "as they endure immense hardship that would shake anyone's faith in humanity." Earlier, I spoke with Michael Kovrig's wife, Vina Nadjibulla. Here's part of that conversation. Hi, Vina. Thanks so much for making the time for us tonight. I really appreciate it.
Hi, Vashi. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Tomorrow will mark 2 years. It's hard to imagine, hard to say it, since Michael was detained in China. How are you doing?
Well, it's a very difficult milestone. When you and I spoke last in June, we sincerely hoped that we wouldn't have to be facing this particular milestone. And certainly when Michael was detained 2 years ago, none of us could imagine that he would still be behind bars.
It must feel a bit surreal.
It is very surreal and it is challenging. It has been a long 2-year journey.
What can you tell us about how he's doing? I know that you're aware of what the ambassador said yesterday about his physical and mental strength, his resilience. Have you had any communication from him first, and what can you tell us about his condition?
Yeah, well, as you probably know, and as Ambassador mentioned, 2020 was especially difficult and isolating for Michael because we didn't have consular access to him from January to October. So finally, when in October, Ambassador Barton was able to visit Michael, it was incredibly reassuring and a great relief to all of us that Michael remains healthy, that he is doing everything possible to maintain his mental and physical health and well-being. So that was definitely reassuring. But of course, it is taking a toll. This has been an incredibly challenging 2 years for him and for all of us out here who are fighting for his freedom.
I remember you telling my colleague Adrian that there was a time in which you were getting some letters. Are you still getting any letters? I know that time had sort of stopped and then maybe resumed. Is there any update to that?
Yeah, so since 2019, during 2019, we were able to get letters on a monthly basis. But unfortunately, because of the pandemic, 2020 has been really different. So there were no consular visits and also really sporadic letters. So we received some letters, but we haven't had any really since June.
So most of your information about Michael's condition is coming from Ambassador Barton. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah, absolutely. So these consular visits are incredibly important for Michael and for the rest of us because it's really our only window in finding out how he's doing. And it's his one opportunity to hear news from the world and understand that he has not been forgotten, that we're all working very hard to secure his freedom. And he has mentioned that knowing that so many people are working on his behalf is allowing him to feel less alone and is keeping hope alive for him.
It's not only people who are specifically working on his behalf, but I've mentioned this to you before, so many viewers who have followed along with this story for the past 2 years have expressed their concern for his well-being, for his safety, and for Michael Spavor's as well. I know that you're aware of letter writing campaigns and postcard writing campaigns. Is he aware of that? And what does it mean to both him and you?
Absolutely. This has been a difficult 2 years, but one thing that makes it slightly more bearable is the support and solidarity of everyone here in Canada, of Michael's colleagues around the world, his colleagues at Crisis Group in the US. And that certainly means a great deal to us. We mentioned that in our family statement in October after his consular visit. And it gives a great deal of strength to Michael to know that so many people understand that his detention is unjust, that it is unnecessary, and that efforts are being made to bring it to an end.
It is remarkable to think of, as the ambassador described it, his resilience and Michael Spavar's resilience as well. Does it, knowing that, according to the ambassador, he is in good health, physically and mentally, does it reassure you at all about the conditions under which he's being detained? Like, do you have any optimism as far as that's concerned?
Well, what I know, especially from Michael's letters, is that he is marshaling everything he's got. He's doing everything possible to maintain his positive spirit and mind, that it is a very difficult experience day to day. It takes a lot to be able to, as he says, transform his anger into determination and transform his grievances into resolve. And that's what he's doing every day, battling those emotions and making sure that he is focusing on what he calls virtuous thoughts and cultivating that kind of modern day stoicism, which allows him to stay mentally healthy. But it is definitely tough. I mean, it's taking a toll, and I hope that we take inspiration from the resilience that our Michael and Michael Spavor are showing, and that their strength inspires us, continues to inspire us to do more to secure their freedom, that it doesn't somehow lead to a sense of complacency or comfort that they are well, because it is a daily struggle.
They are both very healthy physically and mentally. I have to tell you, I'm deeply inspired by their resilience and their mindset. It's incredible, given what they're going through. So I would just say and the other thing, just what I was realized too in talking with the families, these are, they're Canadians who have families that are worried about them, haven't seen them, are worried about their health, their mental health, but they're very, very strong, and it's remarkable.
Canada's ambassador to China there says Canadians Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor are both healthy and doing well. That's despite the 2 years of detention in China the men have endured so far. Both were picked up shortly after Canadian authorities arrested Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou back in 2018. They are accused of espionage, charges that are widely seen as retribution for Canada's arrest of Meng. I'm joined now by Robert Malley. He's the president at International Crisis Group and is Michael Kovrig's employer. He joins us from Washington. Hi, Mr. Malley. Good to see you as always, though I do, as usual, wish it were under different circumstances. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
I wanted to start off with that clip from our ambassador. He talked about, from his understanding, the condition of Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor, speaking to their resilience and their strength and their health, both physically and mentally. Is that your understanding? Does that kind of match up with what you've heard?
It does. I'd say it's both extraordinary and not surprising at this point, because everything that we've heard, whether it's through the ambassador himself, with whom I'm in touch, or through Michael's family, or Michael, and I can only speak about Michael Kovrig, or Michael Kovrig's own letters to his family, each time what comes across, and I think we've had an opportunity to talk about it before, is how resilient he is, how much he is using this to learn more about himself, to continue to be who he was before he ended up in detention, and how much he's taking the opportunity to learn about the world. And it's and things that he does to stay in both mental and physical shape. As I say, it's no longer a surprise because we've learned it throughout this 2-year ordeal. But every time I hear it, I'm more in awe.
Yeah, it is particularly remarkable just when you think about what we're coming up on this 2-year anniversary, 2 years of arbitrary detention. Is it in line with who you knew him as prior to this?
As I've had occasion to say, as we're thinking about this milestone, which none of us thought or none of us thought would come, and it's sort of with a sense of outrage that we, as you say, 2 years, 24 months that he's been behind bars with for no reason, for no good reason. I've come to reflect that I feel like I know him more now than I did before he was arrested, because I used to know him as a work colleague, but I've learned to know him as somebody who has all this deep reservoir of resilience and of courage and of patience and of affection for people around him, including his cellmates, including, of course, his family and colleagues. And he's, when he writes the messages he sends back to me, of course, joking, but, he's sorry that his report is going to be a little bit delayed. I've discovered somebody who has this capacity for introspection, for learning, and from making the most out of a absolutely unbearable situation.
What does the 2-year mark mean to you? Did you think it would go on this long?
Well, again, it's been a moment to think back, and I remember the night exactly two years ago when I was woken up. I was in Japan. I was woken up by my chief of staff saying Michael was picked up on the streets of Beijing. We don't know exactly why, although it is likely connected to Ms. Meng's arrest on extradition charges to the U.S. And I changed my travel plans, went to China, hoped that I could see him. Of course, wasn't given the right to do so. You never know in those circumstances. Is this going to last a week, a month, a few months, a year or more? You hope for the best. I thought then that it would be a marathon, not a sprint, but even I don't think that I imagined that it would be 2 years and we still would be talking about his prison conditions rather than his transition to normal life.
There were in particular a number of discouraging months where even consular visits weren't allowed. At the time, China claimed because of the pandemic, but of course the virtual option was presented to them and they refused it. Those visits have resumed virtually. Does that give you any cause for or pause for hope at all? Are there any signs of, some resolve in the future to you?
These kind of situations, and I can't say that I've been involved in many, but I've spoken to many people who have been directly or indirectly. You don't see much until you see a lot. And so I don't know, what's happening and what is happening in China. What are they thinking about? Are they weighing the harm that this is doing? Are they weighing the harm that it's doing to their relationship with Canada, to the US, where you're about to have a transition in presidents and administrations? All I know is that whether it's our organization, whether it's the Canadian government, whether it's the US government or many others around the world, the pressure on China continues. China knows that this is not something that's simply going to go away because people are going to somehow forget about the two Michaels. So my hope is the combination of that pressure and the talks that undoubtedly are taking place among the three capitals, Beijing, Ottawa, and Washington, will yield the outcome that we've all been hoping for now for 24 months. So the fact that they're allowing virtual consular visits, that's much better than was the case before. But let's not celebrate too much. It should have gone without saying. There never should have been a moment where he didn't get at least virtual consular access, and I would say even in person at times when the coronavirus was not as dreadful or as threatening as it was at the outset. So it's the detention is unfair. The conditions of its detention are unjust and outrageous. And yes, we'll take. It's better that he get these consular visits virtual than none at all. But there's much more that needs to happen. Beginning, of course, first and foremost with his release. But between now and then, his conditions of detention need to be improved.
The pressure that you speak of being applied in order to secure that release, do you think, and I know it's difficult to tell in great specificity at this point, but do you think that a Joe Biden administration will increase that pressure or not?
I don't know. I've been in touch with them, just as I've been in touch with the Trump administration. They've been extremely solicitous, extremely open to our suggestions, and also just keeping us abreast and telling us that they consider Michael's fate to be part of what they are working on. He's not an American citizen, but obviously there's a very close linkage to America because of the decision to request Ms. Meng's extradition. So they've taken this case on. They are raising it with the Chinese authorities. And I suspect that President-elect, soon-to-be President Biden, will do the same. I don't know exactly how they'll tackle it. They obviously have to figure out how they're going to tackle the entirety of the China relationship. But I would think that it would be better for all concerned to get the whole this irritant. This is more than an irritant for us, but certainly an irritant to U.S., Canadian, Chinese, that triangle, to get that out of the way so that the U.S. and China can deal with the many serious issues that they face.
And finally, Mr. Malley, before I let you go, there are those reports that came out of the Wall Street Journal late last week that there is some sort of conversation going on right now between Ms. Meng's legal team and the Department of Justice that could see her return to China in exchange for Ms. Meng admitting some kind of wrongdoing. I know it's separate, but it's kind of the same. It involves this case as well. I'm just wondering from your perspective if you think that would have an impact on the Michaels release.
I don't know what's the truthfulness or not of the Wall Street Journal report. All I can say is that we've conveyed very clearly that we think Michael needs to be released as part of any arrangement that may be reached, and who knows if they will, if the report is accurate, and if it's accurate, how close it is to fruition. But regardless of what happens, he needs to be released. He should be released independently of what happens to Ms. Meng, but certainly if there's something involving Ms. Meng, he needs to be let out. Again, there's no connection between the two. China has made that connection. And so if there's resolution of one, there needs to be resolution of the other.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Malley. I appreciate your time as always.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.